My name is Byron Adams. I'm a bit of an extremist when it comes to the paranormal. For the last 10 years, I've hunted anything from ghosts to poltergeists to specters and demons. You name it, paranormal, I've pretty much seen it if it comes to a ghost. I've seen anything from your standard haunting to where something falls off a shelf or levitates to a possession where somebody lifts and flies up out of the air. I've taken place in summoning circles as well as a few exorcisms. The adrenaline I feel while taking place in these kind of events is undescribable. I've been infatuated with paranormal since I was a child, and I lived in a house that was haunted. I've done most of my investigations by myself, but every once in a while I'll allow a crack team to join me. However, tonight was not one of those nights. Tonight I'll be investigating alone. You may be curious as to where I'm investigating. After a decade of dancing with the paranormal, I've decided tonight was finally the night I was going into the Demon House. The Demon House, or more famously known as the Ammons haunting case, located in Gary, Indiana, is a home that is apparently lousy with spiritual activity. Some locals call it the House of 200 Demons. I'm calling it my biggest case yet because that's where I'm heading right now. It was about 12 a.m. when I reached the property. A prime time for the supernatural to start manifesting. As I approached the door, I was met with a rather puzzling sound. It was the flapping wings of a horde of insects. Hundreds, if not thousands, of flies lined the entrance to the property. The front door practically vanished underneath their moving bodies. The moment I placed my hand on the door, the swarm took off. I felt an offsetting kinetic energy the moment my hand grasped that door. I took a deep breath and told myself, "This is it, Byron. No turning back." I thrust the door open and plunged into the residence. As my flashlight cut through the veil of darkness, I felt uneasy. With each step into the home, my equilibrium felt off. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I could have sworn I saw movement to my right. I closed my eyes and placed my free hand over them, rubbing them, hoping to deter some of the stress. I was suddenly overtaken by a powerful, sour smell. I pulled out my tape recorder and I began some EVP sessions. "Is anybody here? Did you die in this house? What do you want? Kill the living." Chills ran up my spine and I immediately dropped my tape recorder. I scrambled to pick it back up and play back that recording. "What do you want? Kill the living." Everything in my body was telling me to run, but I pressed on through the house. I entered the kitchen and I came across a doorway that drew me near it, almost like it had a magnetizing effect on my body. As I opened it, I was welcomed with a slow, rusty creak. A wave of heat rushed over my face as if I had just opened an oven door. I knew whatever was down there, I had to go and see it myself. As I descended down the steps, I heard another ghostly voice in my ear. "I see you." I began to shake as I walked down those stairs. After reaching the bottom of the basement, I took some time to explore the entire room. The only real off-putting thing was that there was a patch of dirt underneath the stairs, and it looked like it had been freshly disturbed. As I was contemplating heading back upstairs, I stopped in my tracks as I heard something above me. Are those footsteps coming from above me? Am I not alone here? My mind was racing with questions, but I didn't have time to think because they were getting louder. Next, I heard the basement door creak open. The room around me got hotter. I began to sweat as my heart started beating at an accelerated pace. I shined my flashlight on the stairs. I was met with a black fog that came rolling down it. And what followed in the fog was a large, dark figure. It had the head of a goat. I heard another disembodied voice come from behind me. I wanted to run. I wanted to escape this house. But I couldn't. I stayed there, fixated on this creature, paralyzed by terror itself. Once this thing had reached the bottom of the steps, it turned to face my direction. It let out a mighty roar. I shut my eyes out of fear, and in the 2 seconds I had closed them and reopened them, this thing was face to face with me now. It opened its mouth and exhaled its hot, nasty breath on my face. Its mouth stayed ajar from the exhale, and a noise slowly began to rumble from it. It was that familiar buzzing I had heard before. Seconds later, the buzzing was louder than ever, and flies erupted from this thing's mouth. I'm talking a whole swarm. The insects filled the room. I could feel them touching my face. I began to freak out as I dropped to my knees. I could feel them in my ears and in my nose. Out of desperation, I let out a loud howl. Right after the terrible sensation had stopped, I opened my eyes, and the entire room was empty. I decided at that very moment I had had enough time in the demon house. I hauled my ass right up those stairs in front of me, and then I opened that old heavy metal door. Even though I was in a panic, I did take note that the door didn't creak this time when it had opened. I started running as fast as I could for the front door. And right as I burst through the front door inches, I was met with a bright light to my face. After about a minute, the light had lowered to reveal 2 police officers on the other end of it. They were mouthing things at me, but I couldn't understand them. This didn't make any sense. They were only 10 feet away from me. I took my hand and I hit my ear a couple times to see if I could hear that muffling noise. I spoke out loud to them. "Can you hear me?" They both shook their heads slowly with a confused look. They then attempted to repeat what I just asked them. I could tell that much from watching their mouth. With a frown on my face, I just shook my head no. They took me with them and we communicated at the station strictly through handwritten notes. They let me off without any charges and recommended I go see a doctor. I didn't bring up what happened in the basement to me. I was scared they would assume that I was crazy. It's been 3 years since I've been to the demon house, and I still can't hear. I've seen multiple specialists and I've been fitted for a hearing aid, and still no sound. This has been paranormal investigator Byron Adams, and I heed you this warning. Do not go to the demon house. It's not worth what you'll lose inside.